on Money Monday, you're going to get yourself a dose of what you really want. It's some Fernando Uribe. And Fernando joins us right now. Hey, Fernando, how are you, buddy?
John, how are you, man? How you holding up?
I'm hanging in there. I see you got yourself a new backdrop. Looking good, brother.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Just taking after you.
I like the way you got the dustbuster hanging on the wall like that.
Absolutely, yes. Listen, I have to be practical here. Absolutely.
So, I got a couple topics here that Frankie said you wanted to talk about. But before we get to blackmail for small businesses and who's thinking about running against AOC, let me ask you this. How are things in Jersey? Because, I know New York's numbers are the biggest and everything, because we have, a more populated, more dense population. But how are you doing, and how are people doing over on your end?
Well, John, what's alarming by me, especially where I live in Hudson County, right across from Manhattan, and then surrounding Bergen County, they're having some of the highest cases anywhere in the state, and we're talking about, well over, a couple of thousand already, and it's quite alarming. It seems like the governor's sort of social distancing mandate and a lot of what the governor's been trying to do in terms of closing down the public parks, really encouraging residents to stay home, hasn't been working. We've seen more positive cases, surfacing each and every day, and it's frightening right now. I mean, I know personally, I lost some people in the nearby area, like EMT workers, some elderly family friends. So it's a really scary time. I mean, I feel bad for my parents who know people of that age demographic and others really that live by me that are just being affected by this. It's quite scary, John.
No, it sure is, my friend. So, tell me what your premise is on this blackmail for small business. Tell me what's going on here.
Well, John, it's interesting that, and I don't like to be able to be political in a time like this because we're really trying to focus on getting through this pandemic. But it never ceases to amaze me. Last week on the news cycle, hearing that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is trying to get additional monies to small businesses, which, let's be honest, John, that is the lifeline of this economy. And of course, we're hearing different whispers from the president and the task force to reopen the economy. I know that's being sort of taking center stage right now in the news cycle as well. But it just seems like, opportunistic politicians like Nancy Pelosi and even the squad are really trying to sort of hold this stimulus package ransom. And as like millions of Americans are waiting for those stimulus checks to come in this week, apparently via direct deposit, from what the news cycle is telling us, it seems like Nancy Pelosi, the Chuck Schumers of the world, continue to play politics with people's lives and with our money. And to be honest with you, I don't want to sound overly cynical, but are we really surprised at this point?
No, no, it's not. It's not shocking at all. That's for sure. I'm shocked. I was just talking to Chris Markowski right before you came on at how poorly the government is doing at giving out this PPP money. They pumped the system full of liquidity for corporate bonds and junk bonds and treasuries. But now there's 350 billion sitting there that small business owners want, and they can't start handing out the money.
And you know what's interesting, John, about this amount of money, and certainly small businesses, as I mentioned before, the lifeline of our economy, especially here in the New York, New Jersey area, where so much of nightlife and hospitality and the service industry really comprise a lot of the revenue generated in this area with our economy. And one of the things that alarms me is whether or not we see the economy being reopened, whether it be in the next few weeks, whether it be in May or June. At some point, John, a lot of these businesses don't have a lot of the sort of the liquid capital to sustain themselves. So if for some reason, even after opening the economy, if we're still going to look at businesses struggling and they have to shut down again and then reopen, a lot of them aren't going to survive. And that's what I'm really concerned about.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing horror stories almost daily now of people who are saying, "Hey, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm trying to hold the business together. I let some people go. I'm trying to hold on to some people that are really important to me if I can ever fire this thing back up." But since I guess April 3rd was the day the PPP program opened up. April
Correct.
10th was when April 10th is when it opened up for sole proprietors and micro businesses. So the people that applied on April 3rd still haven't got any money on April 10th. So that tells me even the smaller businesses are going to be really last on the list, and they're saying the money could be gone. So, $2 trillion, basically 350 billion goes to small businesses, which is like, 17% of the money, and they still can't even figure out how to give that out to people.
Absolutely, John. And what's even more alarming, I wanted to let our viewers know today that whether it's in New Jersey or New York, I mean, especially here where I live, I know so many of my friends and other associates that work in nightlife, hospitality, and other sectors of the economy. They're having trouble even filing for their unemployment. And that's just another issue that's compounding this problem, John. And quite frankly, again, it's a reminder about the sort of the ineptitude of government bureaucracy when we're hoping that agencies like the Department of Labor and that division that handles unemployment benefits can be sort of up to speed and be fully staffed. I understand, obviously a lot of state agencies don't have people working, only essential employees are on the premises, but I know tons of people, John, that can't get through on the phone line, are not getting their emails returned, and it's alarming. A lot of friends of mine are trying to sustain themselves with little to no equity right now, and it's frightening, to be very honest with you.
No, I know. I'm part of one company that I advised that has had to re-amend their PPP loan application no less than 3 times. No fault of their bank, but the government can't get their act together with the set of rules and guidelines. So people are like flying blind on this stuff. And our company, we put in our application 2 days in advance on April 1st. So I guess, the joke's on us that it's April 13th and we still haven't gotten approval or anything.
John, this is just sort of a prelude of what's to come, because even with this first stimulus package, it's not going to be, I think, sufficient enough. And believe me, I'm the first one to talk about fiscal responsibility and making sure that we're allocating our funds responsibly. But it just seems that we'll need another stimulus package maybe sometime later in the early summer, maybe even sooner. And that's alarming because at the end of the day, John, we're looking at our debt. We're looking at how this is accumulating. But again, we have to help Americans. And if anyone knows any better solutions, I'm all ears. But right now, I'm not seeing any other ones.
So tell me what's going on with AOC. We got a new contender, Maria Milagros Cabrera.
Yeah, well, you know what, John, and let me tell you, this is one of those sort of, American dream stories. I mean, she's the product of like Italian and Cuban immigrants. So I'm a little biased here, and I'm half Cuban myself. But what's interesting about Michelle is that she's worked not only in media, but she's also been heralded as a significant business sort of leader in the Hispanic community. And when you look at her platform, yes, she's running as a Democrat. Yes, she's running in a very sort of progressive / liberal district, which AOC currently is the incumbent. But when you read through her bio, when you read her positions, she's not like this sort of far left type of Democrat. Now, whether or not a moderate or a centrist Democrat can win in that district remains to be seen. But she was able to, fundraise over $1 million, John, in the last 60 days. That should tell you a lot. I mean, again, listen, AOC raised over $2 million, but for Cabrera to be able to do this in such a short amount of time, when the primary is still, I think, a couple of months away. I know that the primary in New Jersey was moved from June to July. I suspect in New York will do the same. I don't know, have the exact date on me, but if you read into Cabrera, she's a very inspiring story. Again, not a sort of crazy liberal that we're all sort of scared of, that believes in identity politics, that believes in social engineering like AOC. Listen, she's not the type of person that comes across as unintelligent or uninformed. I mean, John, one of the interesting things about AOC is that she's always bragging about having, an economics degree from Boston University. But when you listen to her talk, John, you would think that she called out sick the day that they taught basic math and Econ 101. So it's really frightening to me that people in her district are still gravitating to, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez when she just seems oblivious. And it's really evident, John, by her rhetoric and also by her record.
I do know Melissa Caruso Cabrera from CNBC over the years. I always thought she was, much more liberal, but I am seeing a lot of parts of her platform that seemed to be, significantly less liberal than AOC. And, she spent the career on CNBC where she knows all these, big dogs in the financial, institutional financial markets. So I'm sure they'd love to have somebody like her who's a little more practical in place than AOC.
Absolutely, Jen. And listen, here are some wonderful credentials about Cabrera. I mean, she was named one of the 100 most influential Hispanics in the country recently by Hispanic Business Magazine, and she was also sort of a Broadcaster of the Year recipient from the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. So clearly, she has quite a resume, but at the same token, she has a very good business sense. And John, isn't everything we always hear about AOC is that, well, her econ degree, she's so brilliant, she's so intelligent. But when you listen to her, John, it's startling. And I'm not trying, listen, and some people might just say, well, Fernando's being sexist, he's being a misogynist, he's sort of taking jabs at AOC. I'm not doing that. Listen, if AOC had some sort of plausible platform to run on, I would say, listen, I'll give Miss Cortez her due, but she doesn't, John. And she just comes across as just very ignorant. And for someone that, again, sort of brags about her, her educational prowess, she's clueless on the economy and she's just clueless on basic math, John. And I don't know about you. I'm hoping that when the primary comes, it'd be great to see Cabrera beat her in the primary. It'd be great to see reasonable, rational Democrats like Cabrera taking a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives because she knows about the economy, she knows about business, and more importantly, she's not coming across like the rest of the members of the squad, those rabid anti-Semites, those other socialists as well, such as Rashida Tlaib, sort of Ayanna Pressley, and Ilhan Omar. Again, it'd be great to see someone like Cabrera take a seat in Congress and really help drive this economy forward instead of trying to drive it into the ground.
Yeah, well, it would be nice to see at least a healthy debate for that seat, and I think it would be, she. People don't realize that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was actually entered into a game show by her brother, where like Cenk Uygur and the Justice Democrats were recruiting people to take out, Democratic incumbents who didn't expect a run against them. Joe Crowley, in my view, probably one of the crookedest guys around, but stalwart on the Democratic side of things. And he took his constituency for granted so much that she kind of snuck up on him and took him out in the primary, right? Once she won the primary, there was no race. So this is a similar thing here. If Caruso Cabrera can actually keep up with her on raising money and be a little more practical and not as polarizing, she may be able to take AOC out in the primary. And truthfully, over in that part of New York City, no Republican is winning. So the Democratic primary is technically the race. And I'm keeping my eyes close on that one because I'd like to see AOC get bounced. That would put a big dent in the whole squad movement.
Absolutely, John. And certainly one of the biggest drawbacks that's about what we're living through with this pandemic is the inability to have social gatherings, the inability to have town halls or any sort of rallies. Because I'll tell you right now, when you read about Cabrera Moore, and I really urge our viewers to check her out because she's a really established businesswoman. She's an established journalist. And I think she's a very viable candidate. And it's a shame that, listen, if you put AOC in a debate against this woman, I think that Cabrera would drop her like an elective, John. I mean, it would be that. It would almost border what awaits Joe Biden when he faces the president in a debate come October, because I think it could be really ugly. It's one of those scenarios, John, where you might want to put the kids to bed and even put like a parental advisory label on that sort of show.
Yeah, well, it will be fun to watch. That's for sure. Did you do anything good this weekend? You come across anything good to watch? I mean, I think I watched everything on Netflix so far.
Well, John, other than just grading assignments for my students online, believe it or not, I was a huge fan. And for anyone that has Hulu and subscribes to that streaming service, I was a religious fan of The Sopranos, John. And now all 7 seasons are on Hulu. So I just started rewatching The Sopranos from season 1, and it's amazing to me how well written that show was by David Chase. And it's amazing 20 years have gone by, and that show still, as far as I'm concerned, believe me, stands the test of time as a quality program, and it really, again, the acting was amazing, and I love James Gandolfini. He's a fellow Rutgers alumnus like myself, and certainly, I still mourn his passing many years ago. But it's a great show, John. It's on Hulu now, so if you enjoyed The Sopranos, if you really enjoyed that sort of drama, hey, check it out on Hulu.
Yeah, and I keep hearing people talk about, some of these other new flash in the pan series. One in particular that Lauren Conlon, my friend from the show, told me to check out, which is called Ozark.
Yes, I just finished it. Yes, I just finished all 3 seasons. John, there's a lot of dark humor in here, but it is such a well-written show, and I'm a guy that will always say that Jason Bateman is such an underrated actor. I mean, he does not get the credit that he truly deserves. It's a great show. It's only 10 episodes each of the 3 seasons. John, if you can, watch it. Trust me, you'll get hooked on it.
No, I watched. That's the thing. That's what I'm telling you. Someone told me. I said, come on. How good could it be? And somebody said to me, it's almost Sopranos good, right?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, all right, well, that's got to be an over-exaggeration. But in any event, I watched all 3 also, okay? And for most of the first 2, I still had a hard time looking at Jason Bateman as this drug lord, money launderer guy, because I'm used to seeing him in romantic comedies and stuff.
Sure.
So I wasn't. The main thing I was struggling with was him as the character, who's this evil, black, dark person. When I feel like he's gonna start, bursting into song at some point, which I'm used to him, like from his characters. I'm not.
Sure.
But I will tell you, we don't want to give out any spoiler alerts for people who aren't getting there. By the end of 3, I have a whole new respect for him. But I would say, it's a 6.5 out of 10 on a Sopranos meter.
Absolutely, John. And you know what? I certainly, again, and you hit the nail on the head. I earned a good amount of respect for Jason Bateman too. It just shows how versatile he is as an actor, where he can just sort of do a funny role like Horrible Bosses, and previous shows he's been on, to something like this where he has to take on sort of a very dark, stoic persona, and it's great television. But as you mentioned before, it doesn't compare to The Sopranos. And when I watch James Gandolfini, when I watch all of the excellent acting on there, listen, it's a Jersey show, and when I watch some of those visuals, John, it brings back a lot of memories to me. And again, for anyone that hasn't watched it, it's on Hulu, and you'll get hooked on it if you weren't the first time.
And then, I'm with you on that. I probably watched every Sopranos episode many times, but the other one is Bateman's wife, Laura Linney. There, you know, and I just keep thinking to myself, like, you want to find something like sexy about her or hot about her, but she has like zero. She's a great actress, but there's like zero sex appeal there. It makes sense why their marriage stinks.
You know what, John? I'm not going to touch that one. Listen, I get accused enough online of being a misogynist and sexist, and I know that I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble, but I'm with you. I hear you.
I mean, I'm talking about the I'm talking about the character, not the person. You know what I mean? Like, they put her in the worst outfits, and you know what I mean? Like, they're trying to make her like the frumpy mom all the time, and there's no sexual appeal to the show in that area where, even like, at one point when somebody has a video of her, it's like not even interesting on that. It's like dead. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's right.
I think they tried to like suck all the sex appeal out of the show by the tone and the colors. It's like, am I crazy or is it always dark?
No, listen, John, you're absolutely right. It's a very dark, sort of very, again, stoic type of backdrop to the show, and really to sort of the atmosphere that the script represents in the plot line. And just to mention, since you brought up Laura Linney, for obviously we're all home and we're trying to find things to watch. If you remember, she was in Primal Fear with Richard Gere in 1997. That was a great drama with Ed Norton. So for anyone that doesn't remember, what a great role she pulled off in that movie as a district attorney. So for anyone that's at home thinking of a movie to watch, that's one of the better 90s movies, John, there, concerning both Laura Linney, Richard Gere, and Edward Norton together.
That was an amazing movie, and that was that was to date, you know. And I love Ed Norton, but I'm saying that was his
First role.
unbelievable. But I don't think I don't even. Even though he knows how to get to a really raw place, it was like one of his rawest characters ever. I guess maybe he was raw, you know.
Yes.
All right, so
Absolutely.
usually
It was his first film, yeah.
usually Fernando and I, we're talking about all the evil things the losers of the left are doing and the lamestream media and all that other stuff. But when we're in the Corona bunker and we're reporting from home, we have a little more time to play around with, and you even get some sage television and entertainment news from Fernando and I. So, yeah, I would check out The Sopranos, and I would check out Ozark too. It turned out to be it turned out to be a worthwhile watch for me.
John, real quick here. I was doing some cleaning over the weekend. I came across some nice Cuban cigars, some nice Monte Cristos with your name on it. So when we're back in the Liquid Lunch Studios, I'm gonna make sure to bring them to you. And if we can smoke one, maybe in between break or after the show, let's do that.
That would be amazing. Me, you, and Frank will have one. He loves himself a cigar too.
I have four of them. So you, me, Frank, and Nico, we can all have a nice Monte Cristo together.
There you go. Yeah, that's certainly the way to Frankie's heart. That's for sure. Me too. Fernando, cigars or not, we need you back as soon as that studio is open again, and I look forward to seeing you in person. But thank you very much for joining us. You're the best.
Thank you, John. And please, everyone, stay safe.